Louisiana, and thank you for tuning in to Local News Live, a production of AOC Community Media in partnership with the Acadiana Advocate, our source of journalism here in the Acadiana area, and they are, of course, covering all of the news all around the state. And so we, every Monday through Friday between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m., bring you the public service of reading you that printed news from a trusted news source. And we could not provide you with that service without the generous efforts of all of our news reading volunteers. This morning, we are so lucky to be joined by Susan Richard. Good morning, Susan.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for reading the news. I'm going to go listen on Cypress Street. And again, we just thank you so much.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it. All right, everybody. So here we go. Let's begin today, Wednesday, the 21st of October. And details in dispute about police at Moore Park party. Lafayette authorities, party attendees differ on officers' arrival before fatal shooting by Ben Myers, staff writer. A Lafayette police officer on regular patrol encountered the large late-night party at Moore Park last week before two people were fatally shot, but the officer saw nothing illegal and did not attempt to disperse the crowd, a police spokesperson said Tuesday. But Sergeant Wayne Griffin's account of the officer's actions differs from that of two people who were at the party. Four people who were shot at the park at about 1 a.m. Thursday, according to the police. Two died, 19-year-old Jakiri Clark and 18-year-old Nathaniel Sharpley, both of Lafayette, and two others, ages 18 and 20, were hospitalized with wounds that were not life-threatening. Griffin said an officer on patrol arrived earlier in the evening before the crowd had swelled to hundreds of people. Griffin said he did not know what time the officer came. The park was open, no illegal or criminal activity was going on. We are not going to kick them out of the park, Griffin said. But the party's DJ and a private security guard the DJ hired said in separate interviews that the officer arrived at the height of the party, after midnight, and it was the officer's arrival that prompted the party to shut down. As soon as I got told he was there, I shut down, said Ernell Smith, who was hired to DJ the party. Smith said he got the gig through a Cash App payment and said he does not know the organizer. Smith's security guard, Donnell Lewis, streamed the party on Facebook from approximately 11:53 p.m. to 12:09 a.m. The video shows young people dancing and drinking, some from styrofoam and plastic cups and other from liquor bottles. Daiquiri Go cups and shattered glass liquor bottles were among the debris at the park the next day. Lewis said the officer arrived shortly after he posted the video and stayed in an SUV unit for about 10 minutes before leaving. Whenever he pulled up, everybody started running back to their vehicles, and we basically shut it down right there because we thought he was coming to shut us down, Lewis said. He just wanted to make sure everything was all right. Smith and Lewis said people lingered in the parking lot after the music ended and the officer left, and the shooting happened as the crowd began to thin out. Griffin said he is not aware of any local regulations concerning park gatherings. The shooting and the party that preceded it have focused attention on Lafayette Parish Mayor President Josh Guillory's decision earlier this year to disband the Lafayette Park Police, which included a chief and 5 officers. Lafayette NAACP members said Tuesday they believed the shooting would not have happened if the park police were still in place. We did have a city park security team. They patrolled the park. There was always 1 or 2 on duty. If there was an unauthorized event, they would know about it because they would patrol the parks, Bishop John Milton told reporters. But a city parish spokesperson, Jamie Angel, said Tuesday that the park police never patrolled past 5 p.m., leaving late-night patrols to Lafayette police. Angel said the police department will create a 4-man detail to focus on parties after large events, such as the University of Louisiana at Lafayette football game that preceded the party. We will be seeing increased presence in some of these areas to ensure something like this does not happen again, Angel said. All right, next one is hurricane evacuees struggle to find shelter. Officials say people won't be left without a place to stay, by Sam Carlin, staff writer. Kevin Kennedy stepped out of his Red Fort expedition on Tuesday morning into the parking lot of Louisiana's Reception Center for Storm Evacuees, a mega shelter in Alexandria, and steadied himself on a wooden cane. He and his partner, Shirley Singleton, had recently been told to leave the Dallas hotel the government put them up in nearly 2 months ago, as Hurricane Laura prepared to make landfall not far from their home in Westlake. Since making it to the Alexandria shelter, they had been filling out paperwork and talking with federal officials about their next steps. Their truck was packed with the things they could fit when they left home in August. "I'd just like to be somewhere stable," said Kennedy, 58, who donned a blue surgical mask and overalls. Once they arrived at the mega shelter, a mammoth 5-acre structure on a rural LSU Ag Center property in Alexandria, Kennedy and Singleton came face to face with an all-hands effort by Louisiana's government to put storm victims in more permanent housing. After staying in hotels for nearly 2 months while hurricanes rolled their Southwest Louisiana homes, many evacuees are being told to go back to Lake Charles. That process has proved complex and at times frustrating for evacuees, some of whom have been away from home since August, after Hurricane Delta delayed their return home for many. Oh, goodness. The state recently restarted bus trips to and from the Alexandria shelter, New Orleans, Lake Charles, and Texas, where storm victims had been scattered. Hundreds have filtered in and out of the mega shelter in recent weeks as it serves as a central stop along the various routes. In New Orleans, some Lake Charles evacuees who have stayed in state-provided hotels since Laura blasted Southwest Louisiana received text messages Saturday telling them their hotel room would come to an end on October 20th. "It is time to return home to your residence," the text read. "There is nothing there," said 48-year-old Margarita Garcia, who was outside the Sheraton Hotel on Canal Street in New Orleans, using a letter from her landlord documenting the damage to try to prove she didn't have a place to go back to. "That house is not safe for me or my kids or anybody to go to." Governor John Bel Edwards' administration is expected to have brought all evacuees in Texas back to Louisiana this week, and officials recently consolidated the hotels in Louisiana to a dozen, mostly in New Orleans. State officials say people won't be left without a place to stay, and that the messages telling them to come back to Lake Charles is part of the process for determining whether people can stay in damaged homes or whether they need a hotel or other housing for long term. Casey Tingle, chief of staff at the governor's emergency department, said the state will have hotels for people with major damages to their homes through likely the end of the year. The people being told to leave hotels have been determined to have minor or moderate damage, he said. If they disagree upon returning, they can appeal that decision to try to get back into a hotel. "It's not that anybody is running out of money for the hotel program," Tingle said. "It's that the operation has to be right-sized. We have to get the people back if they can be back." Tingle added the state will likely work to establish hotels closer to people's homes in Southwest Louisiana. But figuring out the appropriate housing for the thousands of evacuees who sought out of the state's help when fleeing the storm has taken some evacuees on a winding and stressful route. For Kennedy and Singleton, it will likely involve another trip to their home in Westlake soon. They stopped at home by themselves on the way from Texas to find the duo of hurricanes had taken its toll on their apartment building. The tarp that was fastened to the roof after Hurricane Laura was blown off when Hurricane Delta rolled through the towns a week later. On the inside, Kennedy, who is on disability, said mold and mildew are rampant. The power was out. Despite the damage they saw, they may be told to go back to live there, though they can ask for a reassessment from the official from the State Fire Marshal's Office. The state may ultimately determine the apartment is livable. A government document passed out to victims say mold is not reason enough to dub the home uninhabitable. Kennedy and Singleton could be told to stay. If the two appeal and the state decides it's not habitable, the two will likely go back to the shelter in Alexandria to be processed for yet another hotel, probably in New Orleans. So far, 177 people have requested reassessments of their home, said Fire Marshal's Office spokesperson Ashley Rodriguez. Of the 46 that have been complete, 26 homes have been upgraded to major damages, which warrants a hotel stay. Daniel Doyle, the lead area manager for the Department of Children and Family Services, overseeing the Alexandria shelter, said the buses leaving the mega shelter, including 2 Tuesday morning, drop evacuees off at a collection point in Lake Charles. Once there, the people board city buses to go to their homes. Then, if they can't stay, they head back to the collection point to board another bus to Alexandria. Then officials process them again, potentially to go to a hotel in New Orleans, he said. The shelter itself has a host of coronavirus precautions in place. Doyle still stood near a pile of cots waiting to be sanitized. The cots and dining tables have been spaced out inside and the capacity whittled to fewer than 900, a fraction of the nearly 3,000 it typically holds. Announcements blare over the loudspeakers inside once an hour, reminding evacuees masks are required. Ricky Monte, Director of Emergency Preparedness for the Department of Children and Family Services, said it's hard to say how long it will take to get everyone either back home or into a more permanent living situation, though officials are aiming for late October. It will depend on how many people discover their homes have more damage than the state first thought when officials did an initial assessment from the outside. People want to get back home, Monte said. As of Monday, 6,558 Louisiana residents were in shelters, according to the Department of Children and Family Services. That included 97 Delta evacuees in the Alexandria mega shelter and 27 in the New Orleans hotel. Another 5,500 LARA evacuees were in hotels, mostly in New Orleans. 32 LARA evacuees were in the Alexandria shelter, and 910 were in Texas. Most of the evacuees in Texas have been brought back to Louisiana on Monday and Tuesday, and most LARA evacuees in New Orleans hotels who were thought to have minor damage will be brought back by bus on Tuesday or Wednesday. Dick Gremion, the top emergency official in Calcasieu Parish, said the goal is simple. Find out whether people have minor or major damages to their home. If they have minor damage, they should be able to hunker down in the homes. If the hurricane took too great a toll, they'll be put up in a hotel or potentially a manufactured housing unit or other temporary space. The main problem on this end is there's no place to put people, said Gremion. A lot of dwellings were damaged and we have no public buildings to put people because our public buildings were damaged as well. Housing is our number one issue right now. So many homes were destroyed or damaged. Ahead of Delta making landfall, Edwards said people wouldn't be at the Alexandria mega shelter for more than 24 hours before they were put up in hotels. But James Hebert, a 70-year-old who rode out Laura but boarded a state bus to the mega shelter ahead of Delta, said he's been at the shelter for a week and a half. He's hoping to leave, either to a rental property he found or to a state-provided shelter in the coming days. I bear with it, he says. Christina Stevens, a spokesperson for Edwards, said the administration wouldn't operate the Alexandria shelter if we didn't think it could be done safely and if we didn't absolutely have to. She said there may be situations where people are in congregate shelter for longer than the administration hoped, but she pointed to the COVID precautions at the Alexandria shelter. Madrika Bland was likely to meet the 24-hour stay Edwards promised. She stood outside the shelter Tuesday morning with her children, Derek and Malika. Each had a black trash bag full of their belongings at their feet. The family had arrived the day earlier from Dallas, where they were sheltering in state-provided hotel before being told to leave for Alexandria and begin the process of finding a place to stay in Louisiana. Bland visited home 2 weeks ago to discover her house in Lake Charles had been torn up from Laura. She hasn't worked at her job in home health in Lake Charles since August 26, 3 days before Laura made landfall. She planned to head to Lake Charles on Tuesday at the direction of state officials and accompany the fire marshal on a damage assessment of her home. If the home is considered to have major damage, she'll likely be routed back through the mega shelter before landing in a New Orleans hotel. I'd rather be back in Lake Charles, she said. I just hope the fire marshal comes the same day as us, or we're sleeping in the car. Man, yeah. Hundreds gather at memorial for the shooting victim by Megan Wyatt, staff writer. Joined by her friends, a young woman approached Jakari Clark's mother Monday evening at Moore Park, where her 19-year-old son had been killed by gunfire 4 days prior. Clark's girlfriend handed his mom a dozen white roses and a custom-made teddy bear with a sound box that said 3 words in Clark's voice, I love you. It was one of many moments Monday evening in which Cassandra Duroso found herself overwhelmed by grief and gratitude. A few hundred people dressed in blue and white had gathered at Moore Park an hour earlier to pay tribute to her son's life. My baby left me at a young age, Duroso said through the tears. I miss my child. Friends and family spoke and sang, lighting candles beside framed photos of Clark before releasing blue and white balloons into the sky as the sun set. This was actually an illustration of what we've been trying to portray, what we've been trying to tell you, said the family spokesperson after the event. This is who Jakari was. He was that person that made everybody laugh. And by everyone coming out today, it's just a testament of exactly who Jakari was, who he is. And that is what we'd like y'all to continue. Clark was one of 2 people who lost their lives in an overnight shooting last week at the soccer park in North Lafayette. Nathaniel Sharpley, 18, also of Lafayette, died from injuries at a local hospital. An 18-year-old Opelousas man was also injured in the shooting and was in stable condition at the local hospital as of Thursday, while a 20-year-old Lafayette woman was injured and later released from a hospital. The incident happened around 1 a.m. Thursday on the northern side of Moore Park in a parking lot accessible by West Pont de Mouton Road. Police are still trying to determine how many shots were fired and whether there were more than one shooter. No arrests have been made in the case as of Tuesday afternoon. Excuse me. Clark's father, James Clark, said a few words to the crowd gathered for his son Monday evening. He said that he, like his son, was shot at the age of 19. It's sad because at 19, I was shot in the face, and that's why I talk like this, James Clark said. It's sad because 20-something years later, my child gets shot and died at 19, you know? Trellis Hubbard, James Clark's sister, said she awoke to a call at 3:25 a.m. Thursday. It was her brother calling her to say her nephew had been shot. Hubbard remembered her nephew fondly Monday evening, saying his biggest hobby was eating. His go-to restaurants were Waffle House and Raising Cane's. Jakari also loved to play basketball. He always smiled, Hubbard said. You hardly ever see him with a frown. Hubbard said her nephew was on a rocky road for a while, but graduated from Acadiana High earlier this year and was attending South Louisiana Community College, where he was studying to become a welder. Jakari was my favorite cousin, one child said into a microphone Monday evening. We used to talk every day and think about him coming back. I text him but get no responses. I love you, Jakari. Let's see. Staff writer Katie Gagliano contributed to this report. Public defender seek to drop cases. Louisiana Supreme Court justices skeptical problem exists by Matt Sledge, staff writer. Okay. Louisiana Supreme Court justices were told they have the power to relieve public defenders of excessive caseloads at a hearing Tuesday, but they appeared reluctant to use it. Justices questioned the extent of the problem and whether they should be the ones to solve it, as they considered a request from East Baton Rouge Parish public defenders to drop some cases and stop accepting new ones. Only Chief Justice Burnett Johnson asked a question that appeared to side with the public defenders. The state First Circuit Court of Appeal ruled in favor of the Baton Rouge defenders in March, and a victory at the Supreme Court would have statewide implications as agencies like the Orleans Public Defenders implement furloughs during the economic downturn. The public defenders are seeking a statewide order from the Supreme Court that would give the Louisiana legislature 1 year to relieve caseloads, presumably by beefing up funding, and after that begin ordering the dismissal of cases, starting with misdemeanors and less serious felonies. Louisiana is among several jurisdictions across the country where public defense advocates have sought to apply a new metric to what long has been an elusive calculation. How much work can a defense lawyer competently handle? It's a good question, y'all. In 1993, the state Supreme Court weighed in on a challenge that an Orleans public defender brought over new cases assigned to him. The court declined then to find Louisiana's indigent defense system was unconstitutional, but said attorneys for defendants could make claims in individual cases. The court found there wasn't evidence of a statewide problem, and how to fund indigent defense was a decision for the legislature. Still, the court said that if lawmakers failed to fix an overburdened indigent defense system, it might have to step in. Armed with data from an analysis by an accounting firm and the American Bar Association, advocates in Baton Rouge and elsewhere argue that 27 years later, it's time for the court to turn the screws. The case is one of 3 recent legal challenges to public defender caseloads around the state. But this one focuses on attorneys' ethical obligations rather than the plight of the poor defendants. East Baton Rouge Parish's Chief Public Defender, Mike Mitchell, said at the hearing in district court last year, his employees were too overworked to provide adequate representation. Keeping all their cases and taking on new ones would violate Louisiana's Code of Conduct for lawyers because they would have to pick and choose which ones to prepare, he said. The public defenders pointed to the statewide analysis by the firm Pulswaite and Netterville at the American Bar Association, which found that public defender assigned to one section of the 19th Judicial District Court in Baton Rouge had 3 times or more the caseload that should be taken in a given year. District Judge Don Johnson rejected Mitchell's request to drop cases, but Mitchell found a friendlier audience at the state First Circuit Court, which said in March that public defenders were violating their ethical duties and ordered the district court to triage cases. East Baton Rouge Parish District Attorney Hilar Moore's office appealed the ruling to the Supreme Court. In oral arguments Tuesday, Assistant District Attorney Dylan Alger called the caseload analysis very unreliable and argued that under the 1993 state Supreme Court decision, judges had to look at individual cases to decide whether public defenders could adequately represent that client. Several justices sounded loath to accept the public defender's argument or new methodology for calculating a criminal defense lawyer's max workload. The caseload analysis estimated that cases in Louisiana took 3 times as long to resolve as cases in similar analysis in Texas, according to Alger, which prompted mock indignation from one justice. Apparently, Texas could handle 3 times the number of cases as Louisiana, Justice John Weimer said. Justice Will Crane also expressed skepticism. To think that a lawyer, on average, is going to have to spend 8 hours on a misdemeanor case just doesn't resonate with me from my experience, he said. The attorney representing Mitchell said the comparison between Texas and Louisiana was a red herring because the state's criminal codes are different. John Landis of the firm Stone Pigman said similar caseload analyses have been adopted by other state courts. Judges only see a fraction of the work done on an individual case, he said. 96% of cases are resolved by plea bargains, and with due respect to judges everywhere, they don't see what happens before a defendant comes into court to plea, he said. I don't think judges do know how bad it is. Justice James Genovese seemed to seize on the state's argument that public defenders needed to offer more evidence about individual cases. You're arguing from a shotgun approach. The state is arguing from an individual approach, he said. You're painting a broad brush across the state of Louisiana. The public defenders were essentially asked to blow up the entire criminal justice system. Assistant District Attorney Lawrence McAlpine Jr. charged. He asked why they hadn't called a line lawyer from Baton Rouge to fess up to failing their clients. But Justice Johnson said that was unrealistic. Do we really expect the trial counsel to show up and say, I was ineffective, and admit to ineffective assistance, she said? While the public defenders have placed their hope in the Supreme Court, forcing the legislature to act, Algie said any fix should be left up to that body. The economic downturn associated with coronavirus pandemic has thrust into doubts any hopes public defenders had for a state bailout, however. More than half of the state's 42 public defenders districts have furloughed employees this year, including the Orleans Public Defenders. All righty. Sorry. Catching up, guys, catching up. Let's see. So let's go. All right. So we're at 9:27. So we're going to move into our death announcements for today. Funerals today in the Acadiana area is Raymond Richard Sr. At St. Francis Regis Catholic Church in Arneville at 2 p.m. today. 2:30 p.m. today. For Today in History by the Associated Press. Today is Wednesday, October 21st, the 295th day of 2020. There are 71 days left in the year. Today's highlight in history, on October 21st, 1879, Thomas Edison perfected a workable electric light at his laboratory in Menlo Park, New Jersey. All right, and on this date in 1797, the U.S. Navy frigate Constitution, also known as Old Ironsides, was christened in the Boston Harbor. In 1892, school children across the U.S. observed Columbus Day, according to the Gregorian date, by reciting for the first time the original version of the Pledge of Allegiance, written by Francis Bellamy for the Youth's Companion. In 1941, superheroine Wonder Woman made her debut in All-Star Comics issue number 8, published by All American Comics, Inc. of New York. Yay, Wonder Woman. In 1944, during World War II, U.S. troops captured the German city of Aachen. In 1945, women in France were allowed to vote in parliamentary elections for the first time. I can read, I promise, guys, I can do it. In 1960, Democrat John F. Kennedy and Republican Richard M. Nixon clashed in their fourth and final presidential debate in New York. In 1966, 144 people, 116 of them children, were killed when a coal waste landslide engulfed a school and some 20 houses in Aberfan, Wales. In 1967, the Israeli destroyer INS Eilat was sunk by Egyptian missile boats near Port Said. 47 Israeli crew members were lost. Tens of thousands of Vietnam War protesters began 2 days of demonstrations in Washington, D.C. It all happened in 1966, guys. Wow. In 1971, President Richard Nixon nominated Lewis F. Powell and William H. Rehnquist to the U.S. Supreme Court. Both nominees were confirmed. In 2001, Washington, D.C. postal worker Thomas L. Morris Jr. died of inhalation anthrax as officials began testing thousands of postal employees. In 2014, North Korea abruptly freed Jeffrey Fowle, an American, nearly 6 months after he was arrested for leaving a Bible in a nightclub. 10 years ago, 8 current and former officials pleaded not guilty to looting millions of dollars from California's modest blue-collar city of Bell. 7 defendants ended up being convicted and received sentences ranging from home confinement to 12 years in prison. 5 years ago, Vice President Joe Biden announced he would not be a candidate in the 2016 White House campaign, solidifying Hillary Rodham Clinton's status as the Democratic frontrunner. 1 year ago, Zion Williamson, the NBA's top overall draft pick, underwent knee surgery to repair a torn meniscus. He would be sidelined for 3 months and miss the start of the season with the Pelicans. Today's birthdays. Let's see. We have singer Elvis Bishop is 78. TV's Judge Judy Shinlin is 78 because she's awesome. Actor Everett McGill is 75. Musician Lee Loughnane of Chicago, 74. Musician Charlotte Gaffey of the Go-Go's is 67. Movie director Catherine Hardwicke is 65. Rock musician Steve Lukather of Toto is 63. Actor Ken Watanabe is 61. Rock musician Shea Shovita Limon is 50. Rock singer, musician Nick Oliveri of Mondo Generator is 49. Christian rock musician Charlie Lowell of Jars of Clay is 47. Actor Jeremy Miller is 44. Country singer Matthew Ramsey of Old Dominion is 43. Actor Will Estes is 42. Michael McMillan is 42. Reality star Kim Kardashian West is 40. Actor Matt Dallas is 38. Actor Charlotte Sullivan is 37. Actor Aaron Tveit is 37. Actor Glenn Powell is 32. And actor-singer Kanye Brown is 27. And out of all those people, I think I know 2. Okay? Wow. I think I need to catch up on maybe some current events or listen to some new music. What do you guys think? Okay, so moving on to the zodiac. Happy birthday, Libras. Shout out to my bestie. It was her birthday yesterday, Libra. All right, September 23rd to October 23rd. Refuse to let demanding people interfere with your productivity. Resentment will surface if you allow someone to take advantage of you. Physical activity will relieve stress. So get out there, do some exercises, rock it out. Scorpios, October 24th through November 22nd. A change of heart will push you in an exciting direction. An unusual turn of events will take place if you reconnect with someone from your past. Sagittarius, November 23rd through December 21st. A change to how you deal with money matters will influence your future. Someone will try to talk you into something that isn't your best interest. Take care of pending problems yourself. Well, I think that all wraps up into itself, right? Take care of your money. Okay, Sagittarius. Capricorn, December 22nd through January 19th. Work with people who share your goals. An unusual lifestyle will pique your interest. Romance is in the stars. Shared expenses will help you achieve your higher standard of living. Okay. Aquarius, January 20th through February 19th. Put your energy into personal gain. Look over documents and update and make updates where necessary. Keep up with the times and trends. Look for ways to save money. Pisces, February 20th through March 20th. There are deals and financial gains to be made that can help you raise your game and reach your goal. Romance will improve a relationship with a loved one. Aries, March 21st through April 19th. Don't take a risk today. Acting in haste will lead to a loss. Bide your time and do your best to get along with everything until you have a clear-cut plan in place. Taurus, April 20th through May 20th. What are you waiting for? Take action while you can. A partnership looks promising and will improve your chance of a better future. Jump at a chance to show your abilities. Taurus, do it. Jump at it. You need to go for it. All right, Geminis, May 21st through June 20th. Someone will take advantage of your enthusiasm if you are too eager to please. If you want to burn energy, do something that will result in a healthier physique. Don't try to buy someone's attention or love. Go exercise. Cancer, June 21st through July 22nd. Use your imagination and turn your dream into a reality. No, do not neglect a meaningful relationship. A kind gesture will eliminate a complaint, and romance is favored. Leos, July 23rd to August 22nd. Uncertainty will prevail. Do not jump from one thing to another. Finish what you start and live up to your promises. Use your energy wisely and set an example that others will emulate. Okay. Be a leader. Virgo, shout out, I'm a Virgo. Okay, August 23rd to September 22nd. Set your sights on what you want. It's time for a change. Live your life. Spending more time with a loved one is encouraged. Okay. Well, looks like I'm going to be doing something. Making a change, guys. I'm making a change. All right. So we're going to go ahead and jump back to our into our news because that's super fun, right? Super fun. All right. Back to some locals. Saving the stage. Musician lawmakers hope to restore Eunice's nearly 100-year-old Liberty Theater by Megan Wyatt, staff writer. Although the pandemic has robbed Cajun musician Joe Savoy of his ability to travel and perform, it's given him the opportunity to take up a project close to his heart, restoring and reopening the Liberty Theater in his hometown of Eunice. The theater stage has been dark since October of 2019. The activists fear the centerpiece of the Cajun Prairie community will be nothing more than a haunting reminder of what once was if something isn't done soon. It's very special to me because it's my hometown theater and my family is so connected to us, Savoy said. But the other day I walked into the Liberty and all the lights were off in the actual theater. And I just looked around and thought about how majestic it feels for a small town to have such a gorgeous room. It's the jewel of the prairie. It needs to be restored to its former glory. U.S. Representative Mike Johnson, who represents Louisiana's 4th District, toured the cultural landmark Tuesday morning and vowed to do everything in his power to restore the theater. There's bipartisan support for the legislation required to begin renovating the theater, Johnson told a group of about 20 people gathered there Tuesday. Congressional approval is required because even though the theater is locally owned, there was a federally funded addition to the building in the 1980s for a wheelchair-accessible ramp and bathrooms that comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act. We have a bipartisan consensus to get this thing done, to turn over the ownership and all that and sort of move the ball, Johnson said, noting there are only a few more legislative days left this year, and it might have to wait until next session. Somebody in a political office is never supposed to give you a guarantee, but I guarantee you we've done the hard work this year, so you're in good faith that we'll get it done. This isn't the first time the Liberty Theater has gone dark. Savoy's parents, a Cajun musician and a music producer, were actually the driving force behind a restoration project in the 1980s to reopen the ornate building. The theater had been shuttered for more than 20 years at the time because television and movie theaters had become the go-to entertainment over live plays and performances. I remember crawling around in all the crawl spaces with my buddies as the restoration was underway, cleaning up and painting and construction, Savoy said. Basically, my parents were the reason the National Park Service came here, and this began as we know it. I used to run sound here as a teenager. I played here hundreds of times. When the theater reopened in the 1980s, it became a cultural destination for locals and tourists alike, especially on Saturday evenings for Rendezvous de Cajun, a live radio show in Prairie Home companion format. Eunice Mayor Scott Fontenot said he was approached once in Omaha, Nebraska by a stranger who said Liberty Theater because Fontenot was wearing a city shirt. The theater's return is vital to regional tourism, according to Herman Fuselier, a music writer who works as an executive director of St. Landry Parish Tourism. Fuselier grew up visiting the theater and would later serve as MC of Rendezvous de Cajun. I can say that even in the declining years, it might have been 30 or 40 people here, but they were from Seattle, Washington, from Washington, D.C., all over the country, Fuselier said. The word jewel was mentioned, and that's what I use all the time. This is a jewel. Savoy, along with a handful of other Eunice residents, formed the Association for the Liberty Theater earlier this year. They're hoping to work through the logistics, obtaining construction and maintenance rights to the building, and determining exactly what work needs to be done and how much it will cost before launching a fundraising campaign and public planning project earlier next year. An anonymous donor has committed to donating a substantial amount of the projected $2 million needed to return the theater to its former glory, Savoy said. The goal is to renovate and reopen the theater by 2024 to commemorate the 100th anniversary. The association also sees ongoing revenue potential through private events such as wedding receptions, so the theater doesn't shutter again in a few decades. I really and truly think we have a very unique opportunity to bring this thing back to life like it's never seen before, said Representative Philip de Villiers. The Liberty Theater originally opened in 1924 as a silent movie theater and vaudeville house for live performances. Construction on the building started in 1919 and stalled for about 4 years because of the financial crisis of 1920. The new theater was a state-of-the-art addition in Southwest Louisiana and featured seating for 1,000, a large stage, and a heating and cooling system. When it opened, the editor coined the phrase that the Liberty was the premier temple of amusement in Southwest Louisiana, which of course it was because Lafayette was a dot, said Charles Seal, a local historian and theater association member. There was no I-10, Eunice was it. And the main road, Highway 190, travelers from Houston to New Orleans passed through, with us almost smack dab in the middle. And because this was the prairie, there were no trees. You could see the building for miles and miles. That's pretty cool. I hope they do it. Yay, theater. Maternity care deserts across Louisiana put pregnancies at risk. A staff writer, Emily Woodruff. Each week, Ashley Landreneau, a mom of 2 with another little one on the way, jumps in her car and heads to her doctor's office in Lafayette. The 33-year-old salon owner gets a regular weekly ultrasound because of a history of 7 previous miscarriages means her pregnancy is considered high risk. And while everything has gone smoothly 19 weeks into her current pregnancy, what makes it more dangerous is how far she has to trek from her home in Bayou Chico to From her home in Bayou Chico, the trip to her doctor's office is an hour away. With my experience and everything I've been through, I can't just see anyone, said Landreneau. The closest hospital to me is 45 minutes away. There's not a specialist there that can deliver. There's no NICU. Louisiana has among the highest rate of death for pregnant women in the U.S. One of the reasons, according to new research, is the lack of maternal care in many areas of the state, which forces women to travel long distances for routine checkups, emergency visits, and deliveries. 22 parishes in the state are without a hospital offering obstetric care, a birth center, or any OBGYNs or certified nurse midwives, according to an analysis of 2018 federal workforce data released last month by the March of Dimes, a national nonprofit focused on improving health care for mothers and their babies. In Evangeline Parish, where Landrenew lives, there is a single OBGYN in a population of over 33,000 people. That puts the parish among the 35 out of Louisiana's 64 parishes that have little to no access to maternal care, according to the report. Due to the scarcity, researchers estimate that 1 in 4 pregnant women in Louisiana may need to travel outside of their parish for many appointments necessary to monitor a pregnancy. Ultrasounds, blood tests, glucose screenings, specialist appointments, and delivery. Dr. Rahul Gupta, the nonprofit's chief medical officer, said that the inconvenience of distance can make it hard for expectant mothers to get the care needed to keep them healthy. Transportation becomes an issue, said Gupta. Time becomes an issue. It becomes a money issue. You have to take a day off to go and wait at a practitioner's office. A lot of the times, pregnant people have other kids they need to take care of. They have to then find child care. These things accumulate in maternity care deserts. According to a study published in the journal Women's Health Issues last week, a lack of nearby providers is impacting the state's maternal mortality rate, which was the worst in the country in 2019. Study author and Tulane University epidemiologist Maeve Wallace compared the geographic data from the March of Dimes analysis of maternal care to the 112 maternal deaths in the state in 2016, the most recent data available. According to our findings, women in these maternity care deserts had a 3-fold higher risk for deaths directly related to the pregnancy, such as severe bleeding or preeclampsia, a dangerous complication involving high blood pressure. Wallace also noted a relationship between living in areas without maternity care and pregnancy-associated deaths, which are deaths of any cause, such as homicide or suicide, up to a year after pregnancy. The risk for pregnancy-associated deaths among women in maternity care deserts increased by 91% compared with those with access to local care. That suggests that prenatal care is an important checkpoint for women at a crucial juncture in their lives, she said. Maternity care serves more than just a purpose of providing obstetric care, said Wallace. It's a place where women might be screened for intimate partner violence or mental health services they might not be getting. The study also found that while less access to care was associated with higher death in pregnant women, racial disparities between deaths of Black and white pregnant women persisted regardless of where a person lived. Black women are more than twice as likely to die in the year following pregnancy than white women, regardless of whether there was care nearby. For Landrenew, who is white, regular visits are crucial. She has what's known as secondary infertility, an umbrella term for trouble conceiving or carrying a child to term after a previous healthy pregnancy. Of her 9 earlier pregnancies, 7 have ended in miscarriage. 4 of those losses were in the second trimester. If all goes as planned this year and next, she will deliver a baby boy at Lafayette General Medical Center in March. But if there is a complication, both her life and the life of her child may depend on the time it takes to get to a hospital. I have said a prayer, and I hope we can get there quickly, she said. Oh my gracious. Okay. Program re-enrolls hundreds to finish degrees. Compete LA welcomes back non-traditional college students by Ken Stickney, staff writer. Tequila Babin was 7 college courses shy of graduating from University of Louisiana at Lafayette a decade ago when she got this jarring news. She was pregnant. The broadcast journalism major dropped out of school, and in the 10 years since then, she and her husband have added 2 more children, but no academic degree for Babin. For the Lafayette Parish native and Como High School graduate, that's going to change. I did not want to be at home. That was not my dream, she said. But starting a family, things got put in the back seat. Excuse me. My husband would mention going back to school to me. My brothers would mention it. I just didn't know how. That was until Babin heard about Compete Louisiana. a University of Louisiana system program that intends to offer degree opportunities to more than 650,000 Louisianians who have earned some college credit but left without a degree or credentials. Now, Babin, a stay-at-home mom, is close enough to her bachelor's degree in general studies that she can almost feel the sheepskin resting in her palm. She'll graduate in December from UL as plans for work success, most likely after furthering training as a paralegal. Babin is one of more than 2,600 students who have filled out the Compete LA form to find out more about the program, which launched last year. Of those who filled out the form, 950 were referred to one of the UL System 9 regional campuses. 730 applied for admission, 640 students were admitted, and 412 enrolled. This semester, even with COVID-19 and hurricanes, 375 students enrolled for the fall 2020 semester. 8 Compete LA students have graduated University of Louisiana school systems, and Babbitt intends to follow them. But the UL system has visions of bigger numbers than 5,000 students enrolled in program by 2023, the program's 5th year. That's what system leaders said this week. System President and CEO Jim Henderson launched the Compete LA program by assigning 3 high-ranking staff members, Janine Kahn, Cami Geisman, and Claire Norris, to develop the plan that would attract former students back to campuses to complete their degrees. They worked out details with the system's 9 campuses: McNeese, UL, Southeastern, Nichols, University of New Orleans, Northwestern State, Grambling State, Louisiana Tech, and ULM, all of which have Compete LA students enrolled. Students enrolled in the programs by campus this semester: ULM 81, UL 77, Northwestern State 74, McNeese 49, Nichols 26, UNO 24, LA Tech 18, Southeastern 15, and Grambling 11. To smooth prospective students' paths to back to campus, the system hired coaches, knowledgeable people who would advise prospective students how to handle the obstacles and return to campuses for their degrees. The student successes the UL system believes will make Louisiana stronger for the credentials these new graduates will earn. Amber Baradon, a Como High graduate who attended UL from 2004 to 2009, says she left school to help support her mother and grandmother. Since then, she's worked myriad of jobs: frozen yogurt parlor manager, bank teller, office assistant, security department assistant and scheduler, pediatric therapy center technician, graphic design freelancer, and real estate assistant, but none of them offered her a career path. She heard about Compete LA, but balked over finances. Money seemed to be a deal breaker. But her coach worked out a financial detail for her, and she returned to UL last spring. She's on track to graduate in general studies in spring of 2021. When you leave high school, you're not always an adult, she said, explaining why the first time her college experience will be so different. Why this time? Now I know how to be an adult. I go to work every day. I am on time. I know about time management. I would be able to grow in that time period when I was away from school. Now she said she wants to learn, to be a sponge that soaks up learning. That's been the dream of mine since I enrolled. I've put the dream on front burner. Henderson said money can oftentimes present a barrier for students who want to return to college. To offset that problem, he said the UL system established a financial model that charges $275 per credit hour in the program with no hidden fees. That's a competitive payment rate. Compete LA also established a Compete LA Academy, a handful of courses, most of them general education offerings, that provide a bridge from 3 types of returning students who take them: those who want to try online learning for the first time, those who want to start college right away and tackle courses aggressively, and those who need to raise their GPAs in order to get back into college. They can take basic courses online and get established in how to take coursework nowadays. The price structure of the academy is $150 a month, which students can easily budget. Excuse me, I'm sorry. The Compete LA program is getting noticed, but mainly by word of mouth. Henderson said, there's little money for advertising and promotion, but the program has been noticed by the news media, including an interview of Henderson in Forbes. Henderson said the overriding goal is for students to gain credentials they need in the emerging workforce. It's heavily reliant on coaches. A single point of contact is an intervention to get them back on that path and remove barriers to completion of their studies. More college graduates makes Louisiana a more competitive state. The system will still serve traditional students who graduate high school and go straight into universities, but serving non-traditional students who are seeking to return to campus will help the UL system to draw closer to graduating 150,000 first-time students by 2025. Excuse me, a key system goal. Babin said after she left school 10 years ago, she felt like a failure for not graduating. But with the renewed support of Compete LA coaches, she found the push she needed. On Thursday, she was anticipating her December graduation and looking ahead to the paralegal coursework offered through Tulane. She said her husband has also connected with Compete LA and is weighing a program at Nicholls State. Henderson said he's pleased with the program's progress and its operation. Now, he said, the system must convey Compete LA's strengths to get the word out in a compelling Louisiana message. These solutions work because we looked at problems we wanted to solve in Louisiana, he said. We're targeting our solution to the challenge at hand. Awesome, guys. So let's see, just a quick PSA before we go. Designated on-street early voter parking. Early voting begins through Friday, began on Friday, October 16th. On-street reserved parking in downtown Lafayette will be available at no cost for early voters from October 16th through October 27th. Parking meters will be clearly marked with early voter parking only signage in the following areas: West Convent Street between Buchanan and Lafayette, across from First Baptist School; Lafayette Street between Convent and Berry, across from the school in front of the Andre Mouton House. These designated parking spots are intended for short-term parking for early voters only who are casting ballots at the Registrar of Voters office at 1010 Lafayette Street. Early voting runs from Friday, October 16th through Tuesday, October 27th, with the exception of Sunday, October 18th and Sunday, October 25th, from 8:30 a.m. till 6 p.m. each day. So guys, get out there and vote. And I appreciate you guys. Hope you have a fantabulously wonderful Wednesday. And I think that Matt will be on momentarily to kind of walk us through the end. But yeah, so, it's Wednesday, it's hump day. What else we're going to do today? We're going to have oh, there he is.
A fantabulous Wednesday. I'm actually planning to go stand in the line to vote early today myself, so I encourage anybody else to do that. Get out there and early vote, and thank you again so much for reading the news this morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll see you out there in audience land tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to Local News Live.